Detoxification is not just important for sexual health, it's actually a survival strategy in the world that we're living in. Here's the thing, our food is loaded with toxins, our water is loaded with toxins, the air that you're breathing, the clothes that you wear, some of the products you put on your body like shampoos, conditioners, etc. are actually castrating you. In this video, I'm gonna dive into some of the different toxins that are bombarding your body and how you can not only avoid them, but remove them from your body. Because for some people, this is gonna be the only way to regain their libido, better erections, better sexual health in general. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a much better idea of what you're up against in regards to improving your sexual health and how you can keep yourself much healthier and definitely more potent in the bedroom by using natural detoxification methods. I'm Jonathan White, and I've helped thousands of men from around the world retrain their mind and body to last as long as they want in bed, experience non-ejaculatory orgasms, and go into sex feeling confident and calm. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when new content like this is released, and make sure you get my free ejaculation control ebook through the link in the video description below. It'll help you take your bedroom game to the next level. All right, guys, let's talk about how to detoxify yourself to dramatically improve your sexual health. And I'm wearing this shirt for a reason. Not only was Doom a classic 90s video game that I spent countless hours playing on my older brother's computer, but it really represents what you've got to do, because we're constantly being bombarded by these demonic forces of toxins in your food, your water, the clothes you wear, the products you're using. You got to fight back, essentially, not just to survive in this world, but to thrive. You got to be constantly vigilant and keep your body and your mind on defense against some of the external factors. But fortunately, with a bit of information and some resources, you can keep your testosterone high, you can keep your Johnson rock hard, even while a lot of people in the modern world's health is on the decline, for the majority. So first of all, I'm gonna break down all these various toxins, the most relevant ones that are going to negatively affect your sexual function. Here's the thing. For the human body, for the human organism, for any animal, sexual function it's a luxury. It's an expression of abundance. The sexual function can only happen when the body has so many resources. It's saying, okay, all my bases are taken care of, everything's all right, I'm not under immediate threat. I'm in a space where I can create a child and care for that child. And so when your body's being bombarded, of course with stress, but one major stress in the modern world is toxins, then very quickly the sexual function tends to shut down. And whenever the sexual functions shut down, for men this looks like decreased testosterone, erectile dysfunction, lowered interest in sex, low libido, prostate issues, all kinds of things. This means that something is going on in the body. And if you don't address it, it can lead to further health issues. Your Johnson is like a canary bird. Maybe you've heard of, back in the day in mines, they would keep canaries around these birds because they were very sensitive to toxic gases. If there was an exposure to a toxic gas that was released, the bird would show obvious distress, or maybe it would die. I don't remember exactly what happened. Well, that's kind of what your Johnson's like. As soon as your Johnson stops working, you know something's up. And if you just ignore it, you just try to take pills, take things to kind of like put on top of it, just ignoring the underlying issue, very often other health issues arise. A few years ago, I was experiencing lower libido. Fortunately, my Johnson was still working overall, but my sexual interest had declined significantly, which was very unusual for me. And I tried doing everything. I tried adding more things. Like, okay, I need to take more supplements. I need to exercise more. I need to do more Qigong practices. Nothing seemed to work. And eventually, I got some lab tests done just to see what's going on. These tests showed I had mycotoxins in my body from molds. I had heavy metals in my body. All kinds of things were going on that was like, oh shit, I didn't know that. And so I started doing some basic detoxification protocols, same ones I'm going to share with you. Before long, I noticed a dramatic increase, not just in my libido, but my overall sexual function. And since then, I've actually had higher sexual function than ever. If you're experiencing any sort of sexual issue and you've tried a lot of things, but nothing seems to work, and if you haven't done a detoxification protocol before, you may want to consider this. So let's break down what we're up against. First of all, estrogens. Now, really, everything I'm going to talk about has estrogenic effects on the body. All these other toxins have estrogenic effects on the body. Estrogen, when in above normal ranges, is extremely inflammatory to the body. It's always correlated with higher levels of cortisol as well as prolactin. And when you have high estrogen, high cortisol, high prolactin, this is a recipe for sexual dysfunction. Your dick will not work when you have these things, which are very often connected. But when I talk about estrogens, it isn't just necessarily estrogen your body's producing. That can be the case, but most commonly it's from outside sources. Xenoestrogens, one of the most common things, coming from things like plastics, pesticides, even things like body sprays, Axe body spray, things like that, they're complete garbage. They're loaded with endocrine disruptors, xenoestrogens. A lot of common household products, soaps, shampoos, toothpaste have endocrine disruptors, xenoestrogens. It's terrible. Phytoestrogens as well. Some, plants like soy contain phytoestrogens, which are estrogen mimicking chemicals. Soy is in a lot of processed foods. It's even touted as a health food for the vegan community, and a lot of people will comment saying, well, Jonathan, this study showed that the phytoestrogens in soy actually don't interact with the human body, which I think is complete bullshit. I mean, if you look at who's funding these studies, there's an agenda, but also testosterone replacement. Hormones that people take exogenously, things like testosterone, progesterone, all kinds of hormones, they're synthesized from plants. Testosterone replacement therapy often comes from a plant. So obviously plant hormones do interface with the human hormonal system. I mean, if the xenoestrogens from plastic and other chemicals are reading in your body as estrogens, I think it's safe to say that the phytoestrogens in soy are probably doing the same thing. Okay, so estrogens, we want to get these damn things out, all right? I'll talk more about how to do that, but just understand that this is one of the big things here. Essentially, when you're overloaded with estrogens, xenoestrogens, phytoestrogens, whether they're natural or not, sexual function is diminished, testosterone drops, and your Johnson goes limp. All right, seed oils, big focal point here. Another thing it's everywhere. It's really difficult to get away from seed oils. It's almost impossible to go out and eat at a restaurant and not eat a bunch of seed oils. Highly estrogenic, highly inflammatory to the body, highly disruptive to having healthy cells, okay? Very carcinogenic. And of course, certain organizations in the United States have spent a lot of money marketing seed oils, manipulating the population to believe that they're healthy, that they, make your heart healthier, and that saturated fats have been the enemy all along. When you look at the fact that humans ate almost exclusively saturated fats for thousands of years, seed oils are a modern invention. It's not really natural to get oil out of corn. No indigenous population could have done that. And so these are a modern invention. And interestingly, since the consumption of saturated fats has significantly declined and the consumption of seed oils significantly inclined, heart disease has only increased exponentially, as well as other diseases. So stop eating seed oils. And these do need to further be detoxified from your body, because even when you stop eating seed oils, polyunsaturated fats, trans fats, even when you stop eating them, it can take up to 7 years for the body to fully release them from your system. So again, these are estrogenic, cortisol releasing, highly inflammatory substances. Stop eating them. Do your best, all right? It's not easy, but all right. Mycotoxins. Mycotoxins have become more and more common. And this is for, I think, a few reasons. Number one being people in the United States eat a lot of grains, a lot of breads. And if you've seen where large ag, large commercially grown grains store their grains, I grew up on a farm. I've seen it. They store them in these big metal silos. It's often damp in there. It's dark. It is a breeding ground for mold. So most grains, at least in the United States, probably many other countries as well, are loaded with mycotoxins from molds and fungus. And breads as well. Bread in the United States, if you leave bread out for a while, what does it do? It grows mold, which means that the mold's already in there, the spores are already there, and you basically have a contaminated supply, okay? Mycotoxins are chemicals released by mold and fungus, and they are highly estrogenic, very inflammatory to the body. They can even have neurologically damaging effects. They can disrupt your brain function. When people have severe mycotoxin poisoning, like people who have black mold in their house, tend to have all kinds of mysterious health issues that they can't seem to get rid of. And that brings me to another source of mycotoxins, a moldy house. If you have a house that you have a basement that's flooded at some point, there's been water damage to the house, you can almost guarantee that there's going to be some sort of mold growing in the house. And it's very, very common. It seems in most parts of the world, especially areas that are very damp, that get a lot of rain, maybe not a lot of sunshine. I spent 2 winters living in Hawaii. Beautiful, beautiful place, but lots of mold. You go into an old building there and it just smells very moldy, which means there's mold there. You're breathing in the spores, it's affecting you, you're getting mycotoxins in your system. So this is a big one, and it seems to be getting worse than ever. There's more and more fungal issues. With all these, especially mycotoxins, it tends to really disrupt the nervous system because the body's constantly trying to fight these toxins, and it's basically keeping you in fight or flight response. So this can be one cause of basically being chronically stuck in a stress response, is toxins in the body. Mycotoxins is another big one. So I want to share actually right now some specific protocols that if you suspect you have mycotoxins, I think it's safe to say for the majority of people will have mycotoxins in their system. You can do a test to see if you have mycotoxins. Again, I did this years ago and I had some big surprise living in some very moldy places. So here's the mold mycotoxin, some things you can do for that, all right? Number one is bentonite clay. Bentonite clay pulls mycotoxins out of your system, pulls molds and funguses out of your system. Now, you can use it both internally and externally. Like if you have some kind of fungus on your skin, a lot of skin issues are caused by fungal infections. You can mix bentonite clay with some apple cider vinegar, put it on there like a paste, it'll dry up, it tends to pull toxins out. I take some on an empty stomach in the morning if I want to cleanse out my system. I mix a tablespoon of bentonite clay in 6 to 8 ounces of water, just enough to mix it up, chug it down. Doesn't taste great, it's like drinking mud water, but amazing internal cleanse. You do that I'll do that for a week or two. Take a week or two off, then hit it again, or maybe just every now and then as like a maintenance, just drink a tablespoon of bentonite clay and water in the morning. Another great one is grapefruit seed. Grapefruit seed, antiviral, antifungal, anti-many things. If you get grapefruit seed extract, comes in a little bottle, you can squirt drops into water. I would do that twice a day. I do about 12 to 15 drops, pretty much ongoing. It's just a maintenance for myself. I'll drop 12 to 15 drops in some water, drink it down in the morning and in the evening, best on an empty stomach. I always bring some when I'm traveling just to protect myself from any kinds of pathogens. There's more things I'm gonna mention as well that are kind of master cleansers. I'll save that for a bit further because they're gonna apply to everything we're talking about. There's basic things to support with mycotoxins. Before I forget, Pau d'Arco bark is amazing, antifungal, antiviral. You can take like an extract of Pau d'Arco, pretty easy to take in a pill or whatever, or you can buy the bark and brew it into a strong tea. I do that from time to time as well. Pau d'Arco is fantastic for any kind of like fungal, viral, bacterial infection. Okay, heavy metals. Heavy metals are basically any kind of like metal substance that's toxic to the body, which can be a number of metals. Some very common ones, aluminum. Aluminum's a big one. Cadmium is another big one. Cadmium tends to accumulate in the prostate. In fact, I think different types of heavy metals will accumulate in the prostate, but cadmium is one that has been linked to prostate issues and even cancers. Heavy metals will come from different sources. It can come simply from breathing the air, that we in the world. There's really no escaping it. But it can also come from food and water sources. If you're drinking tap water, it can be loaded with heavy metals. It can even have like mercury and all kinds of nasty stuff in there, which is one reason I do not drink tap water. I'm fortunate to have mountain well water where I live, but when I lived in the city, I had a very high quality filtration system. I would use like a Berkey filter or a water distiller or reverse osmosis system that takes everything out of it. And if you want to add some minerals back in, you can do so, but quality water is very important. Heavy metals can also be in certain foods that you eat. A lot of rice grown in the US has high levels of heavy metals in it. Many grains in general can be loaded with heavy metals. Just do a bit of research on foods that contain heavy metals and avoid them. Never use like aluminum, cooking things in aluminum foil or things like that. It's going to get in the food. There's a strong link between aluminum and Alzheimer's disease as well as other neurological diseases. So you want to get the heavy metals out of your body. So I'm going to share a couple things to help with heavy metals. And again, having heavy metals in the body, just overloading your system with toxicity, often very estrogenic, putting you in fight or flight mode, very often linked to reproductive issues, infertility, all these things can lead to infertility. So for heavy metals, cilantro actually has been shown to remove heavy metals from the body. You can take cilantro extracts or just eat a lot of cilantro. I find cilantro delicious, so I like to add a lot of it to the food that I eat. EDTA, specifically calcium disodium EDTA. By the way, most of these products I'm mentioning, I'm gonna share a link in the description to an Amazon list that has the products I personally use. You can go, find your own. I don't care which ones you use, but I'll share with you the ones that I like that are, high quality. So EDTA, it binds to and removes heavy metals from your system. Zeolite, this is another natural substance that bonds to and pulls heavy metals from your system. You can usually find zeolite as like a spray or like droppers you just take a few times a day. And then chlorella. I'm writing clean chlorella specifically because chlorella is it's an algae, it's a type of algae similar to spirulina, but you don't want to just buy any chlorella or spirulina for that matter because it does powerfully pull things out, heavy metals, pathogens, etc. Most chlorella, if it's simply grown outside, it's going to be pulling heavy metals out from the air, which unfortunately our air is loaded with, and that may contaminate that chlorella. So a lot of the chlorella on the market can actually put heavy metals into your body. Clean chlorella from the Health Ranger, just look up Health Ranger Clean Chlorella. I've been using this exclusively for many years, very high quality chlorella. And then Japanese foot pads. These are these little pads that have natural compounds in them. You basically tape them to your feet. At night, they'll come with an adhesive, and you wear them overnight. In the morning, you take it off, and it's like nasty and black looking because it's pulled stuff out of your body through the feet. So these are really great for pulling heavy metals out of your system. Just look up Japanese foot detox pads. I'll put some in the list of detox support that I'll have. Now, you may want to be careful when it comes to heavy metal detox, because some people who have large amounts of heavy metals, when they start taking these things, it can cause temporary exacerbation of systems because the heavy metals are knocked loose and they're floating through their system and can cause some toxicity. So it's good to take binders, what's known as binders with these. Chlorella is a natural binder, meaning that's gonna bind to and pull that out of your system. Fiber as well. Getting plenty of fiber in your diet will help make sure that the heavy metals that get knocked into your digestive system don't get reabsorbed into the body. Okay, then finally, parasites. And I've got some more information to share with you guys. I've got some really amazing detox support things I haven't talked about yet because again, it addresses everything, so stick with me. So parasites, another thing that are extremely common, and it's funny because none of these things we really learn about, you know, when we're taught about health, which we're not given much health education in general, but we're never told about these things, which are affecting almost everybody. Most people who work with animals, like veterinarians, you know, if you have pets or horses or things like that, it's well known that parasites are extremely common in animals, and humans are an animal. Why wouldn't parasites be an issue for humans? It's just not something we really hear about in the mainstream, when in fact parasites affect a lot of people. I have a friend who was having stabbing pains in his intestines, and he did a pretty elaborate parasite cleanse, and he released a 6-foot tapeworm. Pretty nasty, you know? Hopefully you don't have that, who knows? But more commonly, parasites they're very, very small. And again, this is an organism that is feeding off of you. It's taking a lot of the nutrients and minerals that you're eating, it's going to the parasite, and then it's secreting waste into your digestive system, which is pretty nasty, right? And that can be very toxic to your system. And again, all kinds of issues that can be caused by parasites. This was interesting, only like a year ago, I was doing another parasite detox regimen because it had been a while since I've done one, and within a day or two I broke out with hives. I had these hives, like it was like all over my belly, my lower back, kind of all around my liver area. Interestingly, it was terrible, you know, just horribly itching, just out of nowhere. Had hives, obviously I had to do with the parasite regimen, and then I took something really potent to kind of knock it out, and went away overall. So skin issues, actually a lot of skin issues are caused by intestinal issues. There's a strong link between the intestines and your skin. So things like psoriasis can actually be caused by an imbalance in intestinal health, gut bacteria, but it can also be caused by parasites. Fortunately, it's actually fairly easy to at least kind of knock them down. The most common thing is going to be a parasite tincture. There's a few natural ingredients that are very commonly found in these tinctures. You're going to look for one that has these three things. You want to find a tincture that has wormwood, black walnut, and clove. Specifically these ingredients because one of them kills the parasites itself, but often the parasites have laid eggs, and so some of the other ingredients kill the eggs and prevent them from, I don't know, there's a whole reason for it. All right, find a parasite tincture with these three things. If you look up parasite tincture, you'll find one. Again, I'll have one on my list of things. Diatomaceous earth. This is an organic compound. It's available as a powder, and you can just take it in water. You can mix it into a smoothie, into juice, whatever. It's pretty easy to take, and it's flavorless, but I believe it has really tiny sharp surfaces that'll like cut the parasites up and kill them essentially. It won't harm you, but it will kill parasites. So diatomaceous earth, start with like a teaspoon or so. I should have mentioned that for the bentonite clay. Maybe start with a smaller amount and work your way up to a tablespoon. Same thing with diatomaceous earth. Start with half a teaspoon or a teaspoon, work your way up to a tablespoon a day. I just take it ongoing, maybe a few times a week, just as ongoing support. Again, it's flavorless, it's pretty easy to take. Make sure it's food grade diatomaceous earth. And the final thing for parasites, ivermectin. This is an ingredient that became more common in recent years. Originally a cure for malaria, it's a strong antiviral, also strong antiparasitic. If you look up a horse dewormer, you're gonna find ivermectin. And I totally did not go on Amazon, find ivermectin available in an apple flavored horse paste that you just squeeze in a horse's mouth. I totally did not go on Amazon, buy that, and consume it. And you shouldn't do the same either, you know what I'm saying? Because it would be a lot less expensive than when you have to get a prescription for it or whatever other way, so don't do that. Make sure you don't do that. And with ivermectin, if you give it to your horse, often like one dose is all it needs. So you measure, the appropriate size on the body weight of your horse that you're dosing it to, and take that much. I totally didn't take it a few days in a row just because I had the whole tube of it. Might as well give it to my horse. If you really want to knock out a parasite, ivermectin, baby. And I believe this is what my friend used to take out his 6-foot tapeworm. So it's bringing out the big guns. So those are some specific strategies. Now I want to finish by just sharing kind of an ongoing support protocol for you and some master cleansers that are going to basically affect all of these. And one of my #1 detoxification substances, all natural, as strange as it may sound, is actually melatonin. I recently made a video on melatonin called the master sex hormone, and I'll share a link. You can learn more about melatonin there, but melatonin is the master antioxidant in the body. It is one of the primary hormones that has many different applications within the body. Of course, one, we often associate it with sleep because it does relate to circadian rhythm. Melatonin activates your parasympathetic nervous system. People who are stuck in fight or flight because you're loaded with toxicity, they often have low levels of melatonin. I specifically started using high doses, very high doses of melatonin compared to like what people normally take as far as taking it exogenously. I've been taking 200 milligrams of melatonin, an average of every other night, for over a year now. I've had 0 negative effects overall. There was, the adjustment period. The first few days I felt a bit drowsy, didn't sleep well the first few nights, but then everything was fantastic. I have not experienced a shutdown of my own natural production of melatonin. Sometimes I'll go a week or 2 without it. I sleep just as well without it as I do with it. A lot of studies have actually shown that supplementing with melatonin actually strengthens your body's own production of it. It's not like some hormones where the body will shut down production if it reaches a certain threshold. It seems that the body has no problem with having high levels of melatonin in it. And interestingly, every cell in the body actually produces melatonin. It's not just the pineal gland, especially the gut system. So again, watch the other video on melatonin. I was very skeptical about taking external melatonin, and then once I dove into the rabbit hole and started experimenting with it, it was literally life-changing for me. Okay, so just gonna mention that. Melatonin also is a chelator. It chelates to heavy metals and removes them from the body. It removes mycotoxins from the body. It's a potent antioxidant, so it will help to repair the damage done by seed oils, help release some of these estrogenic compounds from the body. Melatonin is amazing, and again, I recommend working, if you want to use it for detoxification purposes, I recommend working your way up to a high dose, at least 60 milligrams of melatonin, because if you're taking 1 to 10 milligrams, it's not enough to get this antioxidant effect. You need to take super physiological high doses of melatonin to get that effect. Charcoal, activated charcoal specifically, this simply pulls things out of your system. It'll pull mycotoxins, heavy metals, some of the waste products of parasites. If you're doing a detoxification program, it's also another good binder. It'll help remove some of the toxic release so it doesn't reabsorb into your system. I recommend taking some activated charcoal first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. I take it away from supplements and foods just in case it interferes with absorption of nutrients. So take some charcoal first thing in the morning. Fantastic support from that. And that is pretty safe as just ongoing support. Same with melatonin. Milk thistle as well, just as ongoing support for your liver, because the liver, again, is strongly involved in the detoxification process, and a lot of people's livers takes a beating. So taking some milk thistle, also some lemon juice first thing in the morning. Well, at some point on an empty stomach, drinking some lemon juice also helps kind of cleanse the liver. I already mentioned this, but it's worth noting again. Calcium disodium, EDTA, a very powerful cleanser. Again, removes heavy metals from the body, it removes a lot of toxic substances from the body. Pretty safe to just use as ongoing support. Chlorella, again, just good ongoing support. It will bind to and pull toxins out of your system. It's good to do periods of like focused detox, like what I already mentioned, these specific protocols. This is just kind of the master ongoing support you can use for your daily life, basically. Make sure you're getting fiber, insoluble fiber, especially as you're, detoxifying from estrogens. The liver tends to release a lot of these estrogens, and if you don't have enough fiber, they just get reabsorbed into your intestines, so the fiber binds to them and removes them. I like carrots, I like leafy greens, sweet potatoes, those are fruits. Those are ways I get my fiber. Vitamins B1, B3, B6, and B12. I mean, really all B vitamins are important, but these especially are really important for both nervous system regulating, and some, like vitamin B6, has anti-estrogenic, prolactin fighting effects to it. And vitamin B12 tends to get depleted in the detoxification process, and a lot of people just aren't getting enough vitamin B12 period. So I highly recommend supplementing with these. Vitamin D3 and K2. Vitamin D is an essential nutrient that most people are deficient in. If you're not out in the sun all the time, you're not getting enough vitamin D. I started experimenting with high doses of vitamin D3. I'm taking about 30,000 IU a day, which is it's pretty high compared to what the American, USDA, FDA recommended daily amount of vitamin D is, which is tenth of what a lot of other countries' recommended amounts is, which tells you something. And if you're taking D3, you always want to take vitamin K2 with it because that helps prevent the calcium from getting into the blood and puts the calcium into the bones. But vitamin D3 has steroidal effects. It has anti-estrogenic, testosterone boosting effects. Very good for your sexual health overall. And vitamin E needs a mention all of its own here. I recently learned some fascinating information about vitamin E. Again, it helps to combat the damage that seed oils do to your body. So when you're releasing seed oils, vitamin E helps your body to recover faster from that. Vitamin E has anti-estrogenic, anti-prolactin effects, but not all vitamin E is equal. There's various forms of vitamin E, and there's a certain form of vitamin E you want to get to really get the broad spectrum benefits that I just mentioned. I take Dr. Mercola's vitamin E supplement, and I think it's fantastic. So that's what I recommend. Boron, zinc, magnesium, iodine, and selenium. These are your essential minerals, essential for hormone production, for the general health of your body, and also very important for the detoxification process. Boron is very important for detoxing. It's also anti-estrogenic. Zinc, you lose a lot of zinc when you're detoxing, when you're under stress. So make sure you're getting enough zinc. Magnesium, most people are magnesium deficient. I use a magnesium spray. It took me a long time to find a topical magnesium, but I found one that I really like that doesn't irritate the skin or anything. It's fantastic. I think it's Mag Ease. I'll put a link. Magnesium, essential for nervous system health, sexual health, and you lose a lot through detoxification and stress. Iodine, another one that's essential for detoxification and for the proper functioning of your endocrine system. I do not recommend getting it through iodized salt, which is loaded with all kinds of toxic substances. Doesn't even have enough iodine to meet your need anyway. I've been supplementing with nascent iodine, a product called Detoxidine from Global Healing, really high quality. I've been taking quite high doses of iodine, I think something like 12 milligrams, which is quite high. One of some health people I follow recommended this amount. I've been experimenting with it. And then selenium, an essential mineral for sexual health, really good for the prostate. When the prostate is getting enough zinc and selenium, it tends to be less likely to hold on to heavy metal compounds. Okay, so I know it's a lot, but basically here we have supportive substances. You don't have to take all of them. You could, even cycle some of these, but all of these you should be getting on a daily basis. This is just your basic vitamins and minerals that your body needs. And one last thing that I'll mention is to sauna. Using a sauna 2 to 3 times a week is extremely helpful for detoxification. One of the main ways your body can detoxify is through sweating. You will sweat out estrogens. You will sweat out these things. Whenever I get a good sweat in, I often have really nice morning wood the next day. You only need 20 minutes in the sauna. You don't need to go crazy with it. If I do too much sauning, I won't be able to sleep that night. I get heart palpitations. So don't overdo that. Stay hydrated. And there's one detoxification protocol that I haven't mentioned because it's highly, highly censored. It's an amazing substance. It's completely natural, and that would put a lot of these medical mafias out of business if people knew about it, but I can't talk about it here. I'll put a link to a video on another platform where I talk about it. You can learn about that. It's kind of a big gun when it comes to detoxification. It knocks out all these things. So find the link to that in the description of this video. Now, the next thing I recommend you do is watch my video on the boner diet. In this video, I break down the diet that I recommend, that I personally follow for the best health, best erections, best overall sexual vitality. So I'll put a link to that video. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below if you have any specific protocols of your own that you use for detoxification. Always good to hear from you guys and what you're doing. I learn a lot from you guys as well. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like. This is a video that you'll have to study several times, but I hope that you benefit from this. Wishing you great health and sexual vitality, my friend. Have a great day.